and welcome to the Marin Women's Hall of Fame. We're talking tonight with 1999 inductee Dr. Rosario Carr Casanova. Welcome, Rosario.
Thank you.
We had a wonderful festive event this spring, a dinner where you and the other inductees were all gathered together. How did you enjoy that occasion?
It was wonderful. It took a long time to come down, actually, from that.
You had some family and friends come, I think.
My mother, my sister, my brother-in-law, my husband, and my nephew.
I know they're all proud of you. Did they give you a hard time, or did they just celebrate with you?
They just celebrated with me.
Good. Well, it's been a long journey for you to come to Marin County, although you've been in Marin County for a long time now.
Yes, for a long time.
How many years?
I came to Marin County in 1968. It's a long time.
And I remember that you wrote that you settled in Marin County after living in a number of places. One of the reasons was it reminded you of home.
Yes, it sure did. Yeah, I was born in a small town. Well, I actually live in a small town named San Isidro. And it was to Lima, which is the capital, like Sausalito is to San Francisco. So.
Yeah, in Peru.
Yes, in Peru.
And how long did you live there?
Oh, I was 17 when I came.
Oh. How was it then that you came from Peru as a 17-year-old girl?
Well, I was a smart kid and graduated early. And came with a scholarship to find a school that I liked. And I found College of Marin. Although I explored Berkeley for some time, but the 60s were a little bit too wild for me.
Oh, it was in the middle of the 60s when you came.
Yes.
And you went first to Berkeley, but that was just too countercultural.
Well, I came from a very small private school. In fact, we were celebrating the school was celebrating its 50th anniversary. And my whole graduating class were all of 12.
That is a small school of 12 students.
Yes.
So you went from that to this wild time, upheaval, time of upheaval in Berkeley. So you sought refuge a little bit in Marin County.
In College of Marin, yeah.
And what did you do when you got to the College of Marin?
Just enroll, and I found several professors, but the best one that I could remember the most, and I'm still a good friend of hers, is Mary Jane Dunstan, who was a counselor, and she taught a class. It was kind of a career class, and I could feel that she was struggling with something, and I felt that she was very brave too. And she would take tremendous chances with the school. The books and the things that she would have us read were wonderful, and she was very important. Still is very important for me. In fact, she was honored by the commission, I think 3 or 4 days ago.
So you saw something in her that inspired you?
Very much.
And did your career path then follow hers? Was she in the field of counseling?
Well, no, my career path actually followed what my father taught me. He used to play with me and play school. And he was in the Army. He was an official, it's not an official, it's
an officer?
An officer of the Army in Peru. And he used to teach me ballistics. And for whatever reason, I don't know, I still don't know why, it made mathematics a game. And so, of course, I got all kinds of scholarships immediately. And I just learned to enjoy school and enjoy teaching, and combine all kinds of things, and decided for psychology, because if you are a psychologist, you not only can have a private practice, you can teach in a school or a college or a university, which I have done all of those, and have a wonderful life, which I had, I thought.
You have had a wonderful life, and
yes,
you have taught in many different schools, different levels. That's why perhaps the Marin Women's Hall of Fame chose to designate you as their community services honoree for this year, because you've done so many things. It's hard to limit your career to just one. But education has been a big part.
Oh yes, very much so. I enjoy education very much.
And you caught that love of teaching a little bit from your father.
Very early. I love influencing people. I think that I perceive myself as being very ethical, and I think ethics is very important in the life of anybody, because it makes you think before you act, and I try to teach that in my classes.
The root of this ethical person in you, where you think that comes from your early childhood and even before that?
My father was a very strict man, but at the same time very wonderful, very loving person. And he was known. We were never able to be out in public without us being mobbed by the people. And so that I very few times will walk public places with my father. And the few times that we were out, people would approach and try to tell me what he had done and what he had taught them. And for whatever, well, I suppose, if you're a very impressionable person, as I was, and I adore him and admire him tremendously, try to live like him. And in fact, I tried to live like my mother and my father, and that's why I married my husband.
You found in him an ethical person also.
Yes, and a very handsome man like my father.
That doesn't hurt. Well, so your father was very well recognized in Peru.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that like a rock star today, he could hardly walk.
Kind of, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That must have made a big impression on you as a young girl.
Yes, it did.
Now, were your parents encouraging when you wanted to come to the United States?
Not really, because even of women my age, we were not encouraged to go to college. I was never allowed to handle money, for example, and so that it was not expected of us. In fact, I discovered that what I expected was my husband to take over my life almost. When I got here, I learned differently. Although I think I always knew that there was something different.
So they wanted you to be smart. They wanted you to do well, and when you got the scholarships, they couldn't resist letting you come. But
well, I have a sense that even my parents expected was for me to be a well-educated woman that will come here, learn, get degrees, and go back and marry in my hometown. Mm-hmm.
And live not too far away from them.
That's right. When I went to visit, actually, I thought it was not a bad idea, but I couldn't take it.
You just couldn't go back after living
No, it's
here
very
for a
difficult.
So you stayed in the United States, Marin Community College first, and then what?
Went to San Francisco State because I wanted to be on my own, and I didn't want my father to help me economically, and because it gave me an enormous amount of freedom to do whatever I wanted. And from there, I got a bachelor's degree in San Francisco State and a master's degree, and then I went to the Wright Institute in Berkeley and got a PhD. And I had forgotten, when in my graduation book, I wrote that I wanted to go to Harvard. And a friend of mine asked me to apply, and I did. And I spent 2 years in Harvard getting a master's degree in public administration. And it was after graduation that I remember that I had planned it all along.
You have 2 master's degrees,
Yes.
one from Harvard and one from San Francisco State,
Mm-hmm.
and then the PhD from
The
from
Wright
Wright
Institute.
Institute in Berkeley.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And did you just go straight through?
Not really, because what I did, since again I didn't want any help, I worked and I went to school at the same time. And I worked full-time and I went to school full-time.
Mm-hmm.
But at times, instead of taking full load, which were in those days 12 units or 15, I would take 5 or 10 because I didn't have the money to pay for that many units. Mm-hmm.
And what would you say now if a young person asked you, do you regret that? Would you recommend that way of doing things?
Yes. Especially in the United States, and especially for women, especially women of Latino descent. If the day that you pick up that piece of paper, it says you have a master's degree, it changes your life completely. I mean, and you can do things that you cannot even dream in Peru.
It did change your life, and you did go into teaching, and then also into your own private practice,
Yes, I sure did.
psychotherapy. Did that happen right after the PhD?
Actually, I set up my private practice right after my master's degree because you can take you can be an MFCC, which is Marriage, Family, and Child Counselor, and be in private practice. And so I did the 3,000 hours of internship, took the test of the state, and set up my practice in 1975, in fact.
So 75, and then when did you get into teaching?
And I started teaching in 1977, a long time ago.
So you've been doing both for quite a while.
Yes.
And I'm guessing if I tried to make you choose between them, you would say you can't choose.
No, it would be very difficult. I love both. I love both.
In your life, in your day-to-day life, though, how does it work out? How do you manage to do both?
I teach starting at 8 o'clock, and I'm back in the county by 3. And usually, but I only work in the county 3 days a week. At times Saturday, but not very often. And I start at 3 o'clock and then go usually until about 7 or 8 o'clock.
Sounds like a very full schedule.
Well, it was even fuller than that because my father had Alzheimer's, and I had to support him and my mother and take care of him, and needed to hire somebody to do all the chores too, full time.
So your parents came to the United States?
They came to visit, and my father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, so I kept them here. Both of them were residents anyway, but still, they live in Peru, and I had to just take care of both.
Alzheimer's is a very difficult disease.
Oh boy, is it? Yeah, very difficult. It takes an enormous amount of energy and commitment, and people that love you. If you don't have people that love you around you, I don't think not only you will end up in an institution, but I don't think he would have survived the 10 years that he survived. My sister is here too, and so I had that part. She helped me and made it a little bit easier.
You've had a very, very full work life and home life, and yet you've managed to find time to reach out to young people. One of your friends who wrote a letter said that you work with some young people who other people consider dangerous.
Oh, it's the gangs. Yeah, well, I think that, we're having troubles now in San Rafael, and I about 20 years ago, I went in front of the supervisors and told them that the danger existed, because people that are here by themselves are very isolated, and they perceive the whole world as an enemy. And if you give in into the fear that they want for you, see, a gang wants you to feel fear. And if you do, they won. And so when they come to my office at school, I just tell them to take all the, because they wear necklaces and special colors and all that stuff. And they talk to me in Spanish, and it has to be the Spanish that I use. And I don't like necklaces in my office, but I'm old enough that Latinos have a great respect for elderly.
There's an advantage.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So you speak to them in Spanish?
I do, of course.
What is it like in Marin County to be a bilingual person or a multilingual person?
When I came here, it was very easy, actually. I came many years ago, and in College Marina, there were not that many students that were Latino. And people welcomed me with tremendous warmth and love. I remember needed some political help, and I went to the Civic Center, and I found Ann Charles, who in those days worked for one of the supervisors. And she welcomed me and showed me the ropes, and I was very successful in what I wanted to get. And then I met Barbara Boxer, who then she was establishing the National Women Political Caucus in Marin, and invited me to become a chapter member, and I did. And I met many people and felt pretty much part of the community. But I think it slowly changed. I think that people that are different tend to be perceived as dangerous at times, not all the time. But I had a big advantage too. I came from a middle class family with middle class values, and was going to school. I was able to speak English, and they somehow some of them knew about my father. So there were some advantages that many of the people that came after me did not have.
What do you think it is that the young people you work with, what is it that they respond to? You mentioned that they respect your status, and that you don't fear them. What else do you think helps these young people to feel connected with?
Well, that you care, and that and especially if you provide a role model for them. If you put yourself as a role model and tell them that they can do it too. One of the things that is difficult, and I know because I went to Harvard University, and I remember sitting in this enormous class, 250 people, and trying to look for a Latino person and not finding any, not even one person. There were, but I just could not find them then. And thinking about dropping actually and not staying, because it can be very, very, very lonely, and it can be a difficult experience when at times the group, if you are the only Latina or the only Latino, or there are only two of you, you become the expert on all the Latino issues and all the political issues. And you feel the weight, you feel the responsibility. And if you are terribly young and don't have any support systems in the community, you become very angry, I assume, and then strike out. And I think you strike out because you're so frightened too. And if you provide a channel for that anger, and you teach them how to use it, and you provide connections for them, I think that you become very successful at reaching them.
A little empathy, a little drawing on your own experience.
And once in a while telling them not to do what they are doing.
Oh, a little straight talk. Tell me a little bit about the Marin County Minority Mental Health Services.
Oh, God. Actually, I was a member of the board, of the advisory board. And what happened is that I read the plan. This is many years ago. It was 69, I think. And I read the plan for that year. And it said something like African Americans. No, in those days were not African Americans. Those days it said, and blacks do like the service and will continue to come in and take advantage of the service. The few Latinos that come in are happy to be served in English, and so no change will happen. And I thought, if I'm hurting or I'm going crazy, I'm not going to go crazy in English. I know I'm going to go crazy in Spanish. So I put that forward. And Barbara Boxer had been elected by then. By the time I got to all that knowledge, because you have to read so much to be able to accomplish things. Barbara was a supervisor, and she appointed me to the board. And by maneuvering things and learning about budgets and stuff, I was able to establish the minority task force and then hire people, the first bilingual, bicultural therapist for the county.
You're very modest. I've been told that you established that almost single-handedly, and a little bit uphill too.
Well, we had to fight even more than that, because what happened is that it took us some time to put the ads in Spanish, and even today, I mean, a lot of the advertisement for things, not just mental health, but for a lot of the services, come in English. And people that need the services that are Latino, unfortunately, do not speak English. In Latin America, English is only spoken by the middle class. I mean, most people in Latin America speak 2 or 3 languages, but not the working person will not do that.
And we're not so quick here to do our advertisements in more than one language.
Well, we are now, but not.
It's an ongoing struggle.
Oh yes, it is, but we have moved a long way. Yeah.
As you look back over this very full life, so many different projects and 2 large careers in education and in counseling, how do you think you got here? What role models were most important?
Oh, my father, my mother, Rosario, but I think too, my grandmother, my mother's mother, was. I wish I could tell you that I love her deeply, but since she didn't smile very often and she was so stern and so directed, so goal-oriented, I was a little bit afraid of her. And there was a period, she was married to a man that was quite wealthy, and my grandfather was very elegant, and I adore him. And then he lost everything. He lost land, he lost money, he lost the business. What happened, I'm not so sure. My sense is that it was a political emergency. I really don't know. And in losing all of it, he lost a lot of his drive too. And my grandmother had never done anything, and not even handled money for that matter. And she decided that she needed to support the family, and so she did only one thing that she knew, was to bake bread. So she opened a bread store, and she educated 6 children, support the family and educated 6 children, so much so that I remember the store. I mean, it lasted for a long time. It was very, very successful, highly successful.
And you've also had some obstacles.
Yes.
Your father's Alzheimer's, you mentioned. That's a difficult thing.
Oh, that was very difficult for me, yes. Yeah. And then I was raised, my generation was somewhat naive. And I was sheltered a whole lot. And so I had never encountered, although there is lots of prejudice in Peru, I had never encountered it. Maybe I assumed my father protected me. My brother did, and he really was hurt by the prejudice in Peru. But I have a sense that when I don't want to see something, I obviously, because it's going to stop me, then I don't see it, don't pay any attention, just move forward. And when I came here, I had the idea that there was no such thing in the United States, and encountering that was very confusing, hurtful, and wanted to stop again and just go back and hide again, but I didn't. And the prejudice, and it wasn't prejudice, it was the way that women had become second citizens in the United States was something that I never even thought about, and so ignited a lot of fire. And I joined many women organizations and volunteered a whole lot.
As you look down the road, both work-wise and personally, what do you see in the years ahead?
Oh, would like to write more. I think that books have tremendous impact, and now that books can be translated into movies and games, and they will have even more impact. I think that many of the problems that young people have nowadays is because their self-esteem suffers so much. You know, we still, when we look at the economic life of the United States, in fact, the world in general, you start realizing very fast that race and money go together, and so young people of some specific races, including mine, tend to think that they are never going to be successful because of who they are and how and the color they were born, and I would like to change that. I think that's possible. I think that there are books that are quite old, and there are books that are new too, that provide for a sense of well-being, that provide for a sense of pride.
I know you have been over and over again through your life a role model for young women, and for young Latina women in particular.
Yeah.
What would you say to them now? What do you say to them now about race relations in the United States, about prejudice?
Well, it needs a lot of work, but it can be done. And one of the things that I would like for them to know is that they don't need to be married to become something. That you can become a whole person without having men by your side. That it's not necessary, and that if you marry because you need to get married, it will never last. You need to be married because you want to be married, and become self-supportive and self-reliant, without forgetting that it's nice to ask for help once in a while.
Support is a good thing. Well, thank you for meeting with us. We enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I enjoy it too.